Debt can feel like a dark cloud that's hanging over your life. But what if I told you that there was a clear way out of it? A lot of times we're obsessed with talking about debt freedom, debt freedom, debt freedom. But what does that actually mean? Well, there's actually 7 different levels of debt freedom, and I'm going to break down what each one means for you so you understand not only where you are, but what you need to do to get to the next level. And actually, there is a level 0, but I don't know if that means there's 8 levels to freedom, or because it's level 0, we're not actually adding that. So there's still 7 levels or whatever. So feel free to comment below and let me know what you think. So before I break down the 7 levels, I want to talk about why it's important to understand which level you're actually at. See, anytime that we're on a journey, it's important that we break it down into bite-sized pieces. The reason that we do that is because then it feels like it's something we can really accomplish. It feels like we're not taking on too much all at one time. Well, the debt freedom journey is just like that mountain climbing journey. If we're looking at things and we're going, man, having a really hard time paying my bills, being able to have any money left over at the end of the month, interest rates are just crazy. And the next step to us is I can't wait to have 0 debt and tons of money coming in and be able to go on lavish vacations, whatever I want. That's going to feel psychologically like a massive mountain that we have to get over. So instead, the way that we want to build momentum is by taking small, tiny wins and going, okay, we're going to focus on getting from level 1 to level 2. So that's why it's really important that we understand what level we're at and then focus on just what the next one is on the way to getting to level 7. So let's break down the first level, which is actually level 0. So I guess it's not really the first level, it's the 0 level. Either way, it's called dependency. So at this level, you are not independent. You cannot stand on your own 2 feet. You're probably living with your parents. You have government subsidies coming in. You are probably increasingly getting more into debt. You are not able to sustain your lifestyle. The number one thing that you can do when you are at level 0 is to reduce your debt as quickly as possible and increase your income. This is incredibly important to prevent you from going deeper into debt. One of the misconceptions about level 0 is that there's a whole bunch of people that start here and then you just start moving up the ladder and you never get there again. But one of the things that tends to happen, just like any journey, is it's not just a straight climb up. A lot of times people can be at level 2 or level 3, and then all of a sudden they get laid off, or there's a massive medical emergency and they aren't able to work for a certain period of time. And because of that, they drop from a level 2 or a level 3 back to a level 0. So don't think that just because people are at a level 0 that this is the beginning of the journey. This is not always a linear thing that's happening. All right, so officially getting into the 7 levels, we're going to talk about level 1, which is solvency. Solvency is when your monthly debt plus your living expenses equals your income. So basically, we're breaking even. At the end of the month, there is $0 left. We're not taking on any additional debt, but at the same time, we're not really saving any money. Solvency is in a place that you want to be at for a very long period of time because it doesn't take much for an emergency to come up, and then all of a sudden you're going from a level 1 back to a level 0 again. The good news is that jumping from a level 1 to a level 2 can happen really quickly. Level 2 equals stability, which is your debt plus your monthly expenses equals your income plus you have an emergency fund. Now, what is an emergency fund? We should probably talk about this real quick because there's a lot of numbers that float out there. And a lot of the older gurus like to talk about $1,000 is enough as an emergency fund. But the thing is, they've been saying $1,000 is enough for about 30 years since they started talking about it. And when you calculate for inflation, $1,000 30 years ago is worth about $2,500 right now. So that's what I like to use as a number for an emergency fund is get it to $2,500 because $1,000 doesn't buy you what it used to 30 years ago. If you were asking me for advice on how to make a video and I gave you advice from 30 years ago and said, yeah, get a VHS tape and a big old camcorder and look through the eye thing and go like this, you're not going to listen to me and take my advice on that anymore. So I just don't think it's smart that we should be listening to advice that hasn't been updated from 30 years ago as our number. So for me, we start with the emergency fund being $2,500 and then we move on from there. And in 5 years, that emergency fund number needs to go up from $2,500 to $3,000 with the way that inflation is ripping through everything. The point is not to make your emergency fund about some catchy number. It's about being wise with it and making sure that you can cover a lot of the common emergencies that can happen without having to go further into debt. The jump from level 2 to level 3 is really exciting because now we're entering the stage that is actually called debt freedom. This is the level to where you are free of bad debt and you have enough money to where you can really start investing. Now, this level is one of the ones that people love to argue the most because what is bad debt exactly? Well, that's the thing. A lot of people want to say that all debt is bad debt. Some people will say anything that's not your mortgage is bad debt. And then other people on the total opposite end of the spectrum will say there's no such thing as bad debt. It's just you're using your debt in a wrong way that makes it bad because you can use it as a point of leverage. For me, and for the purposes here, we're going to settle in the middle on this and say that pretty much anything that's high interest debt is bad. And for the most part, if we really want to make it even simpler, I'm going to say this is getting rid of all debt minus your mortgage. Now, going from level 3 to level 4 is something that takes a different level of thinking. You have to, at this point, start learning a couple new skills in order to reach this. Level 4 is called security, and that's where your investment cash equals some survival expenses. So this can play out in a couple different ways. Maybe you've taken some of your investment money and you've put it in cash flowing assets like stocks that pay out dividends or real estate, or maybe you have some type of side hustle that has a certain level of passive income. Whatever it is, you are investing your money into something that is giving you enough money back on a monthly basis that is starting to pay for some of your bills. That's why the transition to level 3 to level 4 can be really tricky because this is the first time that we're really looking at our investment level from a completely different perspective. It's not just about throwing it in a fund and, leaving it in our retirement account and hey, we'll check back in 30, 40 years when we're done working. This is about focusing on the here and now and how to cover ourselves with cash flowing assets. Personally, I found the jump from level 4 to level 5 to actually be a lot of fun and pretty easy. And that's because level 5 is a stage called flexibility. And flexibility is where your investments and your cash equals 2 years of freedom. Now, when I say 2 years of freedom, what exactly do I mean by that? When I say that, what I mean is if you did not change your lifestyle at all and your family and household was making zero income, could you maintain your lifestyle for 2 years without making any changes? Obviously, if you weren't working and nobody was making any money, you would probably make some adjustments in your life to be able to stretch that. But that's the real definition of wealth. It's not about the number in your bank account. It's about how long you can maintain your lifestyle without making any more money. To prove my point, I know a guy that makes about $850,000 a year. And if he lost his job, he wouldn't be able to live much longer than a month because his expenses are so high. One of the most underrated things about level 5 is that all of a sudden you have options in this confidence that is available to you that wasn't ever there when you were at like level 1 or level 2. Because when you know, hey, no matter what, I'm fine for at least the next 2 years, no matter what happens. Well, all of a sudden that job that you're stuck in with a really crappy boss, you don't have a problem just leaving that and being like, I'm not going to put up with this anymore and going and finding a new one, or stopping and taking a break and figuring out what you want to do. Or maybe you had a side hustle that you really want to take a chance on and you want to turn it into a full-time business, or you feel like taking longer vacations, whatever the case is. All of those things become that much more of a reality because you're not so worried about the pressures of society anymore. You have built up a level of independence now to where you really can start to exercise different options that you probably never even noticed before. The other thing is when you have that much cash available, you can really start taking some big swings on investments, and all of a sudden investing is really going to become the avenue in which your net worth is going to increase much more than even your income. And that is ultimately how you get from level 5 to level 6. And that's why level 6 is called independence, because that's when your investments are now more than your living expenses. At this point, you probably have a lot of experience in investing whatever vehicles you've decided to do, whether that's real estate or stocks or businesses or whatever the case may be. And they're really starting to take off. And now it's just a matter of getting more money in and then putting it towards the investments. And you're really starting to see the ROI on these things really compound on each other and start to take off. This is one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, is that when you get to level 6 and level 7, that is not really being done by most people through their income. It's primarily being done through the investments that they are making and then watching those investments grow. Level 6 takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of learning, and it takes a lot of time to get to. But by the time that you get there, it's normally only a matter of time before you reach level 7, which is abundance. There's really just one key factor in going from level 6 to level 7, and that's time. You've already built up all the habits that you need to. You have skills and understanding and how to make money, and you're really just doubling down on the investments that you're already making. So over time, those investments are just going to outpace anything you need in life. And sure, there's plenty of stories of rich people going broke because they just outspend themselves. So don't think that you can't ever outspend the money you make. But for the most part, people that get to this level, they tend to stay wealthy because they've worked so hard to get there. So they try not to be stupid with it. Now, through all of these levels, there is one really important trait that I want to say that I have found to be incredibly important in order to maintain a certain level of happiness while you're on this journey. And that is generosity. I know a lot of millionaires, and the ones that are the happiest are the ones that tend to give away the most. The reason that is because they develop this sense of gratitude and contentment, and they learn not to love money so much and make it the primary driving factor in their life. For the people that do and just want to make more money, and they just ultimately end up getting greedy, they end up devaluing the things that really matter in life and end up very miserable and alone. If you want to accelerate your debt freedom journey, then make sure you subscribe to this channel. But if you are ready to take big actions and get serious about your financial journey, then go to my website and check out my foundation course. It's only a 2-hour course, and by the time you're done with it, you will have negotiated your debt down, you will have an automated system for your cash flow, and you will have jump-started your debt freedom journey.